This is where the fun begins.
Are you sure? So be it. Did you miss me?
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to CAF Chat. So happy to be here with you guys this morning, and wherever you are in the United States or the world, thank you for tuning in. If you are barely coming on, please share, like, and if you haven't done it yet, subscribe to my channel. So good morning to you guys. Today is going to be a great discussion. So if you're into the Old Republic and you're into Revan, we're doing part 2 of the discussion of Revan, and we're going into the events that shaped him and that influenced, or he influenced, the galaxy as well. And then CAF Chat, we're going to talk about how so quote unquote journalist, writer, or whatever you want to call him, of the pop culture, said that Disney, or not even Disney, but Star Wars did not, for 24 years, Star Wars did not get the rule of George's rule of 2. So we're going to go over that. That's going to be a very interesting topic. So stay tuned. And it's all going to fit in together, because if you don't know the Revan Lauren, we discussed this last CAF Chat. He is the one that influenced the rule of 2. So from there, Darth Bane got his holocron and learned from him about the rule of 2, basically, or from what he had to say. And Bane made the rule of 2. So that's the little bit of historical events that happened when and how the rule of 2 came about. And when we talk in Cringe Factor, I'll go over about what George Lucas, how involved he was with the creation of the rule of 2, and how it evolved in the Star Wars history, leading into how it basically was dropped in Disney Star Wars. So thank you guys for tuning in. And if you are catching the replay, please let me know that you were here. Leave a comment below, share, and like. And of course, if you want to continue to support the channel and you have the means to do so, become a channel member. Yes. So people are starting to drop in. Thank you. I always set a Twitter. I always schedule tweets. You could schedule tweets on Twitter. So Twitter is one of my platforms for the channel. And so when I make the live streams, when I make these streams here, I schedule them to be for certain times to be displayed in Twitter, to be posted on Twitter. So you see that one at 6 on Thursday morning, and then you see one at 8 my time. So I don't know what time it would be for yours. And then again, one at 8:58 saying we are going live. So if you see those and you're on Twitter, please share out that we are going live here. And of course, because we are doing Sith talk today, even though she was not a Sith, she is more of a Sith assassin, which is completely different than training your apprentice. And we'll go over that as well for Cringe Factor. She's a dark sider. That's why she has the lightsaber, and that's why she works for the Sith. So I decided to, bring out my mug of Ventress. Yeah. And then today, we adopted my cat. We got my cat, Toby, and, I got all his papers and stuff, and he was born, basically came into this world on August 10th. So today's his birthday. However, he is asleep on a kitchen chair. So in the kitchen, dining room chair. So he is asleep right now. So if he makes it on here, today is his birthday, and cat years are crazy. So he's 1 human years and he is like 15 cat years. Crazy how that works. So there you go. And Melissa Lord, channel member, thank you for hopping in and waiting for this to begin. She's been here for a while. First one to make a comment here. So thank you so much for coming in. And then we have Robert DeCosta. Thank you. Hey yo, what's up? Hey yo, what's up? Sounds kind of cool, huh? And then Soul Assassin, my trusted moderator here. Morning, everyone. Please hit the like button and consider becoming a channel member. Yes. And then, of course, a good morning. Yeah, good morning to everyone coming in, whether it's morning for you or not. It's morning for me. So I'd love to extend that good morning or good day to everyone. Sukori is here. Just got here. Long time no see. How's it going? It is going pretty well. Woke up feeling great this morning. I was going to put on this hat because it kind of matches the color scheme. Make sure that it's on the right side. I don't know if I want to wear it though. So there you go. So it kind of matches my color scheme here, but I don't know. So yeah, so it's going good. I woke up feeling great, finished up my notes that I wanted to do for Revan, the Revan talk with you guys, and we are here. I almost made a PowerPoint because I like to nerd out like that. I do, but I almost made a PowerPoint just focusing on certain events, or like we're doing 2 major events because within those events there's so many battles in there. So I almost did a PowerPoint there, but I can put up one, even though it doesn't tell about the major events. I still have the last one here. Let me go ahead and bring that up. So there you go. So Revan, so since we are still discussing him, these are some facts about him. It doesn't really state the main events that he shaped and shaped him in the galaxy during his time. But just to have this up here, just to put a part of the conversation and stuff, and have a visual. Yeah, because you know me, I like to get I wouldn't say technical, but I like to share like visuals and a little bit of information on top of what we're talking about. So there we have. Yeah. And yes, Soul Assassin, do what Soul Assassin says. And he's not behind me, he's that way. No, that way. No, that way. There we go. I could get my directions right. Okay. Share the restream out. Yes, share it out. And then Christopher Barker's here. Hey, OG. Was watching Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Rocket Raccoon is the best character, and his tragic backstory got me in the feels. Oh, I'm glad that you were enjoying yourself. I may not have the same viewpoints of supporting Hollywood as many others, but sometimes it just makes me happy for you guys that you're enjoying something. But in the long run, and this has nothing to do with the topic here today whatsoever, but in the long run, no change is going to be made until we decide to stop funding the direction that they are taking these franchises and stuff. So, but I'm glad that got you. A lot of people liked Rocket Raccoon, from what I know. Let's see here. Awesome. And Razvan is here. Naga for the win, because the name Snake. Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot that I made a poll here. So let me go ahead and announce the poll. And it is, so if you haven't had a chance to vote, favorite Sith: Darth Revan, Darth Nihilus, Naga Sato, and Exar Kun. So here are the standings here so far. So I'm going to keep it up for about a good hour. It's going to be taken down before we get into Cringe Factor. But because we are talking Sith, I know I did a Sith poll a while ago, but I just wanted to throw in some random on top of who we're talking about today. So Darth Revan is at 45. Darth Nihilus at 9. Naga is at 9, so they're both tied at the moment, at the lower end of popularity, I guess you can say, because that's what these polls are, is popularity vote and stuff. And then Exar Kun is at 36, so 36 for Exar Kun, so he's in second place. He's another one that was a influenced in the lore, going all the way to, Luke Skywalker creating his Jedi Academy, and then also influencing George Lucas with how his lightsaber looked, and that double bladed was given to Darth Maul. So a little bit of history there. Thought it was pretty cool. So if you didn't know that, there you go. The more you know, right? The more you know. And so that's pretty cool. So vote that poll. I'll go back and take a look at the poll and give you guys the standings as we progress along here on the show. And so get your vote in. So if you haven't voted, get your vote in. And Zim is here. How are you doing? Good morning, OG Star Wars fans. Well, good morning to you as well. Thank you for dropping in and hanging out. And as always, I always try to do this in the beginning. What is in your mug? What is the beverage that you are enjoying here today? I'm stuck behind the there you go. So again, I have my coffee and I have a little bit of flavored creamer here, vanilla, and that's it. That's all I'm enjoying here today. So I think I'll just keep the hat on. There we go. Let's see here. That backstory was actually the most canon that MCU Guardians of the Galaxy has been. Yeah. So people, there's characters that people resonated with and stuff, and then there's some that you really didn't resonate with, but then their backstory in the end, everything tied in so well, and you became a new fan of this character and stuff. So, well-written stories are worth the time. And that's what we need today. Instead of having this diversity type tactic of having people feel like they're included, it needs to go back to story and character, developing the character, no matter who they are, their sexual preference, or even skin color. It just needs to be a well-written story with a well-written character, all of that. I think that's what everybody is craving today. And speaking of well-written stories, we're going to get into Revan here. So Exar Kun is criminally underrated for a Sith Lord, correct? And maybe, you know what, I think I want to talk about Exar Kun here pretty soon, because we hardly talk about him. He is very underrated. So I think that maybe we'll still stay on the Sith trail. We'll still stay on the Sith trail, and we will discuss Exar Kun here, maybe next CAF chat. Might as well, since I'm talking about it now. So Exar Kun, because his influence is through through the decades, I guess you can say, through the millennium, or I don't know. But anyways, he is one that not only influenced the Star Wars history as well as Revan, going on into Darth Bane and stuff, but also George Lucas. So that's going to be an interesting topic in itself. So Sork is here. Yes, it's time for one of my favorite characters, Revan, Luke, and Galen Merrick. All right, awesome. And let's see here. They are my top 3 characters. Awesome. You know what? Speaking of that, before we get fully into Revan conversation here, who are your guys' top 3 favorite Star Wars characters? Doesn't have to be Sith. It doesn't have to be Jedi. It could be, it could be a variety. So who are your top 3? I want to hear this from you guys before we move on. I would love to hear from you guys. So who are your top favorite 3? You don't have to necessarily give an explanation why. I'm not here to judge you like some people judge you. Like if you like in any Imperial type characters, oh, you're fascist, how you see on Twitter and stuff. I'm not here to judge. We're here for the love of Star Wars, whether you like the villains or not, whether you like the heroes or not, whether you like smugglers or, and all that. So let me know here. Who are your top 3 characters? And I'll type that in here. Who are your favorite top 3 Star Wars characters? Okay. Let me see here. Love that hat. Thank you. It was a gift to me. So there you go. And it's beaded. This right here is beadwork. It's beaded. Let me see. Let me go ahead and just... right here. Here's mine. So it's beaded. See that? All the way around. Look at that. It's beautiful, huh? Beautiful. There we go. All right. Let's put me back into this order here. Wrong one. Okay. All right. So Robert says number 1 is Luke, number 2 is Mara, and number 3 is Cade Skywalker. Oh, so you're staying within those Skywalker. That's pretty cool. Cade there, I sometimes I think he's underrated at times. Not many people do talk about him, maybe because they don't know, or maybe because they never read the Legacy comics or whatever. But he is one that make sure my cap is on right. There we go. He is the one that is a combination of all the Skywalkers, including Mara. And you see traits of him with Luke. You see traits of him with Anakin. You know, even Mara, because Mara is his relative too. You know, she is his ancestor as well, like 2 times, 3 times great grandmother or something like that. But yeah. So again, who are your favorite top 3 Star Wars characters? Razvan says Darth Revan is Darth Keanu Reeves. Darth Nihilus was the craziest of them all, and Exar Kun has that cool Mr. Sinister vibe. I could see that. Mr. Sinister. He's got that. Yeah, I could see that. And Gilad Pelion for you. So you just have one? Or is that only who you could think about at the moment? Cade is a Skywalker who doesn't want to be a Skywalker, correct? You know, everybody wants, okay, so there's this meme that's been going around about Ahsoka being the closest Skywalker there is that doesn't have the Skywalker name, which I disagree with. I think that, and my point is that why are we wanting people to be like the Skywalkers? Why can't they just be their own character and let the Skywalkers be their own unique character and family? Why do we have to, these characters need to make their own merit through their own name instead of saying, oh, well, you know, because of how she was raised, quote unquote, raised or trained, or how much of a good character she is closer to being a Skywalker. No, she is just Ahsoka Tano. She is her own character. Why can't you just leave it like that? Especially when you're countering it with Rey Skywalker, it goes the same way. Rey needs to be her own character with her own name. Same with Ahsoka. And that's where I stand. You know, so I wasn't going to talk about that much, but here we go. I did it. Diddly Squat says 1 is Jar Jar, 2 is Luke, and 3 is Qui-Gon. Okay. Pretty cool. And then Batu says, hey gang, OG, my top favorite characters are Jagged Fell, Jason Solo, and Luke Skywalker. Jason used to be my number 1, but then he became a backstabber, broke my heart, and felled up everything. And that's the depth of the character. You know, good character writing doesn't mean that they're going to be heroes all the time either. So that's the thing with that. And I don't understand why people get so upset about the way Jason went in his arc. Not every Skywalker, or those who are related are Skywalker by blood. They're not going to always be good, and they're not always going to be bad. Yeah, that goes with any character whatsoever. So yeah, I can understand that it broke your heart and his mad face on there. But in the long run, the story was compelling. The story was compelling. Razvan says top 3, Yoda, R2, and Sidious. Oh, R2 was thrown in there. Cool. Bonus for Darth Vader, not Anakin. Ah, so you like Darth Vader. So you like the bad side of Anakin. You like the bad side of Anakin. Okay. Razvan says tomorrow I will change my mind. And I think we always change our minds as we revisit and reread our favorite stories, or even reread a series. That can change all the dang time. And, you know, like, same here. Like, one time someone asked me about my favorite character, and I think I put Jaina, and then like 2 weeks later it was someone else. So it's hard to discern which one's going to be ultimately your favorite. But in the long run, I could probably say Luke Skywalker, because he's the one that got me into the EU. He is the one, because of the movies, he is the one that I wanted to see, you know, with the outcome, what happened. Did he create the order, all that? No, I loved Han and Leia as well, and I was interested in what happened with them. But Luke was the one that captivated me so much that it got me into the EU, because I wanted to see what happened next because of him. Diddley says, I mean, Jar Jar is a goofy of Star Wars. How can you not like him? Yeah, I mean, people are so weird. They have this idea that the sci-fis have to be serious all the damn time, and that's not the case. Um, Zork says outside of these three non-Jedi and Sith, Hondo, Rex, and Mando pre-season 3, where they completely ruin the character and turn him into complete simp. Let me see here. And we're basically talking George Lucas era of Star Wars. So, yeah. And Diddley says R2, the goat of Star Wars. Yes, he's the one that has character. He's the one that, like, I could have working for me and working with, and yeah, he'll probably mouth off and stuff. That's just his character, but he's so much fun. And Sith Assassin trailer. Hello, hey, how are you doing? And another channel member, thank you for coming in. So Darth Revan. So last week we got into like who he was, his character, and how much he influenced the rule of two. So that, and then it goes into like what shaped his character and him was the events, like his passion on wanting the galaxy to be safe and secure in a sense. Um, and which basically turned him to the dark side too. So we're going to get into that. So just to rebrief here, Revan basically was born about 3,994 BBY, battle before Yavin. Planet region is unknown, so that was never given. And then died on 3,637 BBY on the planet region, Yavin 4, basically. His spouse, Bastila Shan, and he had a son with her, Vanner Shan. So we're not going to get into the family parts, but that's okay. But we are going to see how he was influenced and how he fell in love with Bastila. So we'll get a little bit into that because that goes into the events and what happened with him. If you're not familiar with the story, I think everybody's familiar with it, rather reading the book, playing the games, are a combination of, are just looking up the character because Disney shoved him in to their canon, are basically their lore. So affiliations, of course, the Jedi Order, and then the Ravenshists. So we'll get into what that means, the Ravenshists. And then the Galactic Republic, Republic Mercy Corps, and Republic Military, and that goes in with the Ravenshists as well. And then, of course, the Sith, Darth Revan's Sith Empire, and then the Order of Revan. So that goes into another event right there. He participated both in the Jedi Civil War and the Mandalorian War, which we're going to talk about here as well. So is there anything that you guys want to add on, like what you liked about Revan? I would like to know. So I would like to know. And I got two that popped up here. Let me see what they said. Razvan says, I wish someone will give a name the unknown Mandalorian warrior woman whose helmet Revan is wearing as penance. I just call her Sky Walker because I'm nuts. Yeah, I know. That's the mystery, right? Revan wanted to stop the Mandalorians when the Jedi refused to get involved with them and went against orders to lead the small group of Jedi followers against the Mandos. Correct. And we're going to get into that. So we'll get more into depths. But I want to know what intrigued you about Revan. So let me know here what intrigued you about Revan. So I'm trying to create a conversation with you guys. What intrigued you? I can. Okay, let's type about Revan. So what intrigued you about Revan? So what caught on to you about Revan? What made you interested in him, if anything at all? So, and those who are popping in, please go vote on the poll about favorite Sith. There's 4 of them on there. So please go vote. Revan, Naga, Exar Kun, and Darth Nihilus. So definitely consider Exar Kun to have the Dr. Sinister vibes. Yes, he is one of those. So here you go. So as we begin this conversation, we're going to talk about the Mandalorian War first. Because that's the one main event that happened first. Of course, he came in, he got trained as a Jedi, all of that. We have that history. There's that history. That really doesn't necessarily need to be discussed other than leading into the Mandalorian War. So, which is very interesting as well, because we do see the evolution of the Mandalorians too with this, and what that mask means. And then eventually they give up the mask and they don't have any type um, of materialistic item, I guess you could say, no item that gives precedence to who is Mandalore. So that later on was dropped, and I think this dark saber was something that was shoehorned only in TCW, and it only stayed within that. It never was before, and it was never after. So that was kind of weird. So with that, and because with that, I would say that that's not canon, I guess you can say, or it's something that was very brief, I guess you can say. I don't know. So there's really no history before or after with the dark saber in the original lore. So what intrigues you about Revan? In some ways, Revan mirrors Anakin in just a 4,000 year time difference. Yeah, you can kind of see the influence on how, and the similarities on how, Anakin wanted a freer galaxy, wanted his wife to be safe and from harm from childbirth, basically. And so all those motivations made him turn, similar to with Darth Revan. He wanted the galaxy to remain free and stuff. He sought out the Jedi Council. They said no, and he went his way. He went his own way with it. So very interesting there. Revan's story had many possible paths and with general outcomes, but they all had a similar, well-developed fight. He is both light and dark. Staring at him was like staring at the Force itself. He was a great warrior and that destroyed the Mandalorians. He was light side when he was light side. He was dark side when he was dark side. There was no in between. Really, there's no in between. He was chosen one of his time. I wouldn't even say he was a chosen one of his time. I think he wasn't here. What the chosen one means is that, and what you're referring to possibly is to destroy the Sith. Yeah. So, but I get what you're saying. I think the Mask of Mandalore was finally lost after Candoris, right? Died. Yes, it was. You don't see it anymore, but can find Candora's skull in the SWTOR game. I haven't really played the SWTOR game, but I do. I do remember seeing people talking about that and sharing that with me. Cool design. He gave ideas to the Rule of Two and New Jedi Order. He knew true dangers. Awesome. If you are joining in, please vote on the poll. I'm going to check that right now before we get into this discussion here. And hit like and share. Let everybody know that we're live. No matter what platform you're on, share and invite people to come in as well. So I see people popping in with their comments here, so I will check it out. But with the poll, we still have Darth Revan leading, maybe because we're discussing him. I don't know. But Darth Revan is at 53. Darth Nihilus is at 13. Naga Sadao is 7%, so he kind of still staying at the lower end. Exar Kun is at 27. So get your votes in. This will stay up for another half an hour. So as you come in, vote. As you invite people in, make sure that they vote. Robert says, there are times, and this is a quote, there are times when the end justifies the means. But when you build an argument based on a whole series of such times, you may find that you've constructed an entire philosophy of evil. Luke Skywalker. And then Robert says, this describes both Revan and Anakin. Very interesting insight on that. Yeah. So, Luke Skywalker, people are like, oh, he was whiny in the OT. Well, there's a reason why he was kind of whiny. And, he was just a young adult teenage and wanted to find his own way, wanted to leave, was kind of disgusted on, feeling like he was trapped on Tatooine, wanted to leave, And, but as we see him progress, once we get to Return of the Jedi, he was this mature, quiet guy, So for a time being, yeah, he may have been learning and stuff, but he's a well-written character as well. All right. So with this being said, the Mandalorian War, began 3,976 BBY and ended on Malachor 5, I think it's 5, 3,964. So it's a 16 years of conflict here, so almost 2 decades. Imagine that. Um, near 2 decades of conflict. And the Jedi deciding to kind of not get involved, ignore what was going on. And so that's, we're going to get into the story. So that's what made Revan unique and got him thrusted into, this conflict, this war. So it was led by Mandalore the Ultimate with his lieutenant Casus Fett. So we had the Fett. So Fett history goes all the way back then, and there's parts in the history with the Fets that there was nothing really documented. So you have, information here and there until you get to when Jango Fett was rescued and taken in by Jester Morel. And so you have this splotted history of the Fets that were Mandalorians. Mandalorians can be, bounty hunters. They can have other professions. Mandalorian is a culture. Mandalorians are not a profession, and they're basically a commando warrior kind of culture. So we already know that already. So people who said, well, Jango can't be a Mandalorian because he's a bounty hunter. He's just being described by his profession, not who he is and what he lives by, not his culture. So that's something I never got when they say, oh, well, he can't be Mandalorian because he's a bounty hunter. What? Bounty hunter's not the culture. It can be a lifestyle in a sense because how you live and how you're living your life and stuff. But culture-wise, it's not that. So anyways, that was my little rant. Revan seeing the need for the Jedi to get involved, which was denied. So that's what Soul Assassin said earlier too. So he went to the council. He's seen when Mandalore the Ultimate came in and started having his crusades against the Galactic Republic. Revan seeing the need for the Jedi to come in and help out, and they denied it. They denied it. So I thought that was interesting as well because, the Jedi, we know the Jedi as either working and protecting the Republic or working and protecting the galaxy. But when you have, these people coming in and creating conflict and battles and stuff, whether it's, defending and working with the Republic or working on your own and protecting the galaxy from these battles and these group of people that are causing harm, they stood by. They didn't get involved. So that right there, I think, was a big, huge failure of the Jedi Order in itself. Let's see what you guys have to say here. Soul Assassin says, amazing how every event in the lore affects another event. Correct. Example, Exar Kun War went on to the Mandalorian War and Revan to the Jedi Civil War, right? And the Sith remnants of Revan's empire started the Dark War. Yeah, so when we talk about Exar Kun, we'll actually get into all of that as well with Exar Kun on his end there. So very interesting right there. It's, people are like, anti-EU people always say, the EU was such a mess. It was so convoluted and they didn't keep continuity. It was such a mess, whatever. When you get into these stories and you start mapping out these events and how one influenced the other, whether it was directly involved with the same character or another character that their event that they were involved influenced another, you start to see the historical ties in the timeline. And I can't believe how people think that there was no, that Lucasfilm did not do any work and allowed these authors just to do whatever they wanted. That is such a huge, huge fallacy. And as we're talking here, and what Soul Assassin shares here, is it's evidence that the EU was well kept. Yeah, there was hiccups here and there. That happens, but when you have multiple writers and stuff, that does happen. But the rules of the company was, you were given Weston Games, and you got to talk with George Lucas and those that worked directly underneath him to maintain the continuity and the lore, to develop, Star Wars in George's vision as much as they could. Now, every writer is going to write something slightly different and put their own writing skills, writing personality, I guess you can say, into it. But still, the main focus has always been, until Disney came along, to keep the continuity intact, making one single history. So there you go. Thank you, Soul Assassin. And again, bounty hunters is a respectable profession in the Mando lifestyle. Those critics need to read more of the EU. Correct. And that's another thing, because, again, oh, well, Jango can't be a Mandalorian. He was a bounty hunter. That's just a fucking profession. What the hell? Okay, let's go on. And Soul Assassin says, again, so thank you, Soul Assassin. And everyone, if you have something to say, feel free to comment as well, off go off of what Soul Assassin or any of these other wonderful people here, like Robert and stuff, are sharing. Soul Assassin says the Jedi sensed something else was at play behind the Mandalorian Wars, which is true because the Mandos were influenced by the hidden Sith Empire. Correct. And we'll get into that. We will get into that. So there was something else at play. But he did go to the council. They denied getting involved. And so basically, Revan, seeing the need for the Jedi to get involved, which was denied, he then had a group of Jedi called the Ravenchists. So this group of Jedi that he took with him, they basically called themselves the Ravenchists, and joined the Republic military. They joined in to help protect, because there was so many places that the Mandalorians were had battles. So there were so many major battles, and I'm going to go ahead and read them to you here pretty soon, because I've written them down. For the Jedi Sith War, I didn't write down all the battles because there's so many. There's a lot more conflicts and battles than there was for the Mandalorian wars here. And which basically, once Revan got involved with his Revanchist, with the Jedi that followed him to protect and help out, that changed the tides of the battle. So it changed the battle up, in their favor. And the major battles basically were battles, and so I'm just going to name them off on location, but they're the battles of Althir, Cathor, Vancor, Sirocco, Jebel, Duros, Jagas, Cluster, and Malachor 5. So those were the major battles. I think I put them all in order. I may have not. I may have switched some up. But those were the major battles. So if you're familiar with the game or even the novelization, you probably would know and understand all these little battle campaigns and stuff, and may have played them. So let me know. Are you aware of these battles? Have you played the game and the campaign, and what do you think about it? So let me go ahead and read some more here. So let me know if you guys have played the game and you're aware of these battle campaigns. Here, I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. Cheers to you guys. Let me see here. I'll be popping in and out. I have to do car things. I'll catch the replay. All right. Thank you so much. I know I think you're putting your car in a car show or something like that. I think I might seen that on Twitter. So yeah, understandable. Just let me know, like, comment when you can and stuff. So I get about halfway through the game. Oh, you got about halfway through the game. Okay. I haven't been able to play that, or not even Dark Forces or any of those games that were sent to me. Soul Assassin sent me, not Soul Assassin, I'm sorry. Stig sent me some games. So thank you, Stig. And then, from the past, I think last year, for my birthday. And my birthday is in 2 days, you guys. So today is Darth Toby's, which he is still sleeping on the chair in there. So 15-year-old or 1-year-old. And my birthday is this Saturday. So my birthday is the 12th. So my birthday's the 12th. Today is Toby's birthday. If you are into astrology and the elements and stuff, we are Leos and we are about fire. So now you know why I get so fired up, right? It's in my personality. But anyways, so coming up, am I gonna do a birthday stream? I don't know. Depends on what my family is deciding to do. So if I do have a birthday stream, it might be in the evening time. And I would love, and I will announce it ahead of time. It might be, still last minute announcement, but I would love for you guys to come join me. Maybe I'll have a couple of guests on. We'll see. We shall see. So, and yes, her car is going in a car show. Awesome. I wish you well for that. Are you going to have it compete in the car show, or it's just going to be displayed? Let me know. So back to, well, let's go check the standings for the poll here. Again, if you're coming in or you haven't had a chance to vote, please vote. So Darth Revan is at 59. XR Kun is at 24. Darth Nihilus is at 12, and Naga is at 6%. So so go ahead and get your votes in. Let's see here. Woohoo. Now you guys are popping. StreamYard sometimes takes a while before they load up, because I've seen that when I clicked over to check the poll just on YouTube, you guys, I've seen chats already happening. Finally, it's catching up. Let's see here. Play the game, always the good guy. Once I didn't get HK47, so I killed the Tusken Raider. Not just men, but the women and the children too. Party! Let's go get spaced on Nar Shaddaa and Zeltros. There we go. Yep. Those are the two hot spots, right? Those are the two hot spots in Star Wars. All right. Yeah, so my birthday is coming up this Saturday, and today is Darth Toby's, and I thought maybe he'd be over here raising hell, but I fed him before we came on, and so he's nice and bellied up and sleeping away. Yeah. So basically, we're looking for the mass shadow generator, and basically that was used, and it devastated both the planets and the participating fleets there. So that was one thing that was, I believe, towards the end. And so the mass generator, basically just devastated the planet and the participating fleets there. Revan forced the defeated Mandalorians to disarm, and he hid the Mandalore's mask. So imagine that. So this what fragmented the Mandalorians, because they, the rulers for generations, that mask was handed down. And that indicated the Mandalore. So the Mandalore was basically the ruler, the one that brought everybody together, the one that everybody relied on in a sense during that time. And as you get into history with the Mandalorian culture, the Mandalore then turned into someone that rallied the people up, for war and all that. And the Mandalorian would have counsel, I guess you can say, for the economy and government. I guess you can say there wasn't really no government of Mandalore to make sure that they're prosperous and stuff like that. However, they could vote against the Mandalore and do something completely different, and he still would have to go with that. So it wasn't like this dictatorship, or I wouldn't even say it was a democracy either. Maybe close to that. I don't know. Let me know what you guys thought about that. So he hit the mask. Then, which defragmented the Mandalorians. And there you go. Full story of Revan right there. And which was very interesting for that, because again, that really misplaced the Mandalorians. They, it really just devastated them, really, if you want to come up with any word. And then later, Revan and Malak turned to the dark side. So after those events, they turned to the dark side while they were investigating the Sith influence of the Mandalorians and the war. So this is where we get into the influence of their investigation and how they went in basically kind of undercover, I guess you can say, from what I recall. I have to revisit the story. I read it. I'm not the game. I didn't play the game. I read the story. And then I did my research because, I didn't play the game. The game gives a lot more nuances and stuff too. So the game goes well with the book, I think. I can't really, that's what I think. So those who played the game and read the book might have a different opinion than mine. Yeah. But you do have scenarios where you can change scenarios and stuff like that for the game. Because George Lucas was good about giving the player options of doing what ifs and stuff like that, which I thought was pretty cool. And so because they went in and was investigating the influence of the Sith towards the Mandalorians in the war, that turned them to the dark side. And those who followed Revan on that journey also turned to the dark side. So they turned dark Jedis, I guess you could say. And he became the Dark Lord of the Sith, and Malak became his apprentice still. And they formed their own Sith empire, which I thought was pretty interesting. Going in like Anakin, going in wanting to make sure the galaxy was safe and all that stuff. And, trying to find reasons to why these events happen, learning that it had Sith influence, going in and then end up turning to the dark side, end up becoming a Sith Lord yourself. Some of the storyline with Revan is different than Anakin's, but the motivations, they're very similar, very, very similar. So, I thought that was interesting because, it doesn't have to necessarily, like what George Lucas would say, it's like poetry, it rhymes. It doesn't necessarily have to rhyme. It just gives us another way, another scenario on how someone can turn dark. And I thought that was pretty unique and dynamic for this to happen the way it did, because it's not exactly Anakin. So it's not this usual story. Oh, it's just like Anakin Skywalker and he's trying to be the chosen one. No. There's similarities. Yes, there is. But the outcomes and stuff and what happened were completely different as well. So I thought that was pretty awesome in itself. And I'm surprised that Caffeinated Wolf's not here. He's usually here talking to, when we're talking about Revan. Unless he's listening in, who knows? I might be getting it wrong, but remember Boba describing being Mandalore as you make reasonable suggestions that the clans might follow. Yes, I remember that too. So yes, you do make reasonable suggestions, and it's up to the clans to take them or leave them. And that's the difference between like the Mandalorians of this time frame that we're talking about in Revan's time frame versus the Mandalorians in Boba's time. So, and I think Jester Morel and Jango Fett were the ones that also helped to reshape some of the reshape them as well, because I think it was Jango that rewritten their code or something like that. Yeah. And Matt G is like, laugh out loud. So I don't know what you're laughing about, but hello, how are you? How are you doing? Welcome. And if you're just tuning in, please get your vote in. Who is your favorite Sith? Darth Revan is at 61. Darth Nihilus 11. Naga is at 6. And Exar Kun is at 22. So it looks like Darth Revan is basically winning. Maybe because we're discussing him. Who knows? Maybe just because that's who everybody who is attending here loves. So that's very interesting to go. Exar Kun is still straggling along in second place. And if you guys didn't hear me announce it, if you weren't here when I announced it, next week we'll still stay in the Sith timeline. And of course, even though she's not a Sith, she's a Sith assassin, which is completely different than a Sith. I have Asajj. So I'm sipping my coffee in my Asajj Ventress, Mistress of Ratatak mug. And you can find that on my Redbubble. So if you want a mug that you can, like, oh, I love CAF Chat, I'm going to support her. And when we meet on CAF Chat, I'm going to sip in my coffee or my drink out of a mug, one of her mugs. Feel free to purchase a mug, or you can get a t-shirt, or there's certain different merches you can get, t-shirts, mug, you can get a phone case, I believe, all of that on Redbubble. Let's see here. Jester remade the Mandalorian's lifestyle since the Mandalorian's population was dwindling from constant fighting and war. There we go. Yeah. So I knew there with Jester and then with Jango, there was this change and fluctuation and everything that was going on, and and the redirection of the Mandalorian culture and population and stuff like that. Very interesting. So you see the evolution, you see the history of the Mandalorians, even with Revan. So these events do influence going forward, whether it's through Revan, whether it's through the Mandalorians, the Mandalore, and giving up the Mandalorian mask as the item a ruler wears, and how the ruler Mandalore rules the Mandalorians and how that changed over the years. Very, very interesting bit of history there. So yeah, so that's very interesting right there. Check out OG's store. Thank you so much. So yeah, so if you want to have your own, here you go. Cheers to you guys. All right. So let's move on. So those who followed, basically joined Revan in his own Sith empire. And then because of that, he invaded the Republic, causing the Jedi Civil War. So his investigation to the influence of the Mandalorians in the Mandalorian War led him to become a dark sider, a Sith Lord, and then caused the Jedi Civil War. Very, very interesting there. Like the change of events there. And that just basically happened like maybe 5 years after. So he went to the dark side. He investigated during that time. He went to the dark side and began the Jedi Civil War. So let me know what you thought about this Jedi Civil War. Like if you played the game or read the book, or if you know about this part of the history in Star Wars lore, what'd you think about this Jedi Civil War? Because this goes into his purpose and why he did it, and we'll break that down here pretty soon. And then also to how he was recaptured, I guess you could say, by the Jedi, and then fell in love with Bastila, and her influence on him as well. And and then him wanting to find out, like wanting to reconnect his mind and find out like what happened to him in the past, repiecing everything back together. And very, very interesting bit of story here. Something that, is very different and unique than what you see in different timelines of the Star Wars universe, the historical timeline. I'm glad they kept it, kind of a single character, and it wasn't really reused again, I guess you can say, later on. Check out OG's community. Thank you so much. Yeah, so the community, you guys, even if I don't post in there a lot, the community is for you guys to share as well. Share, character, lore, about ships, everything that pertains to George Lucas era Star Wars. Create conversations on books you like or don't like, reason why. As long as you guys don't get into a heated fight discussion in there, I don't care. Follow OG on Twitter as well. Now that went on a different case. My regular Twitter page I used to advertise my channel and interact with you guys, and there I do talk about Disney, Star Wars, and stuff like that, but not in the community one. The community is strictly George Lucas era. So let's see here. Revan fell to the dark side, but he did it to rebuild the Republic. Correct. In his fight the hidden Sith, yes, we're going to get into that, almost succeeded if Malak didn't turn on him. Yep. So that's what we're going to get into. So it's very, like I said, he had reasons to why he went to the dark side, just like Anakin did. The motivations may be slightly different, and that's even Darth Caedus. So each one of them went to the dark side thinking that there was a purpose of saving the galaxy. And that eventually didn't go in their favor in a sense. So you see these three different motivations with the same type of purpose, with different outcomes. If you want to compare, so you have Revan, you have Anakin Skywalker, and you have Jason Solo. And so with that, we see a historical timeline that you would think that maybe would be something that could have been learned of and led with precaution in a sense over the years. But then when we get to Palpatine, a lot of things were destroyed or hidden from the Jedi, like Luke's budding Jedi, Luke coming through, Palpatine hoarded, but also destroyed a lot of Jedi items, holocrons, all of that. And even with the Sith, and then Luke Skywalker prohibited his Jedi to go to Korriban and Ziost and all that other stuff, because either in fear that they might turn the influence of those areas towards the Jedi, because it was like Korriban, like if you read Fate of the Jedi and them going to Korriban and the Sith hounds and stuff like that, man, that's some crazy shit. That's some crazy dark side energy there. The influences on the person's mind, and stuff. So you can't be weak-minded to visit those places if you're a Jedi. And I think we've seen this with Revan, trying to infiltrate to get in and investigate the Sith that caused the Mandalorian War, that were basically the influences of it. And he ended up, turning, but then using that motivation to also protect the Republic or the galaxy from the Sith that they were fighting against. So very interesting indeed. Very, very interesting. Yeah. So another bit of history here. So the second Sith War was also known as the Jedi Civil War. So those are two in one. So that's another AKA kind of also known as. It began 3,959 BBY, and at the Battle of Worst, and then 3,506 ended at the Rakata Prime. So it was led by Darth Revan, with the massive Sith fleet invading the Galactic Republic. So he wanted to take control of the Republic to fight against the Sith Empire, the hidden Sith Empire, which were in the unknown region. He also seized control of Korriban to revitalize the Sith Academy. Yep. And gaining access to the Star Forge. So there you go. So a little bit of history there again. Going back to Korriban, the influences of Korriban. I mean, there's so much dark energy there. Like I said, someone needs to be very strong-minded in the light side to even, consider going there because of the influences. But then you also have the Sith Hounds and other demons, I guess you can say, dark side demons that were created by the Sith and stuff like that to protect and guard and stuff like that. That they can even sense you, go after you, and all this. It's just, we'll have to talk about the Sith Hounds. That's one thing, like a character, like a species character to talk about is the Sith Hounds. Yeah. So Revan had hoped to stop the Sith Empire, who were in the unknown regions at the time, from invading the Republic. So again, everything that Soul Assassin said here. Darth Revan nearly succeeded in conquering the Republic. Basically, Darth Malak is the one that kind of went against him and halted all of that. And the Jedi set a trap, basically nearly, and they took Revan, who was nearly dead and comatose, basically. And one of the persons that led that mission was Bastilla Shan. And she and her group took him to the Jedi Conclave on Dantooine, and where he was healed and reprogrammed. And then he was assigned to the command of Shan. So basically, that's the beginning of the story between Revan and Shan. So basically, he was healed, but he didn't have all of his memory. So he was healed from his comatose near-death experience when he was recaptured by the Jedi. And he basically didn't remember, like even the Mandalorian Wars was something that he didn't remember, and he was trying to piece together all of that. So, and let's see here. All of that because Jedi Order was incompetent and ignorant. Maybe. I mean, they had their reasons. So what's new? So, and then from that, I'm going to take a sip and stuff. So from that, let's see, excuse me. Okay. So they also went to Terrace, where the Sith fleet under the direct command of Malak was waiting for an ambush as well. So there was a lot going on. Like you said, Malak was the one that really turned on Revan, and all these outcomes had happened. Revan was captured by the Jedi with no memory whatsoever from being comatose and near death and being healed again. So recap here. So they took off on the Ebon Hawk, and they went back into the galaxy, tracked down the Star Forge location, and they went into the heart of the Infinite Empire. So that's the empire that was influencing, I guess you could say, of the Rakata. So later, after the number of ancient star maps had been uncovered, Melek led the attack against the Enclave, devastating it and further crippling the Jedi Order. So, we have all of this that happened here. I mean, a lot. I mean, it's this right here. There's a lot to break down on what happened and stuff. And Revan, the Jedi, and the Republic launched the war's final battle. Revan vanquished Malak aboard the Starforge, and the Republic successfully routed the Sith forces. With Malak dead, the Starforge destroyed, and the Sith fleet scattered and defeated, the long and costly war came to an end. And through that, we see, Bastila and Revan form a relationship as well. And then it gets into, them becoming husband and wife. And then he sets off on his own to recover and reclaim his, mind, his history, what had happened to him. And during that time, she ended up being pregnant from him. And we all know what happens after that. Very interesting story there. So I just wanted to cover these two main events. We are up on the hour. We need to get into Cringe Factor now. So if you're tuning in, please get the vote in. I'm going to read the standings of the poll. So you'll have about 3 minutes to get your vote in. If it changes numbers, I will reread it and let you guys know. So we have Brandon the Awesome saying, sorry, I'm late. What did I miss? We just got done talking about the events that influenced Revan and Revan influenced. So comparing him to Anakin in a sense, and to even Jason Solo, with the motivations and why he went down the dark path, basically becoming a Sith Lord. And man, we could sit here and talk for another hour just about the Jedi Civil War. There were so many battles in this, so many battles. So while I'm talking about this, get your vote in. So let me go ahead and just read off some. There's so many. I didn't write them down all completely because, like I said, there's so many. So we have the mission to Rakata Prime, of course, the Battle of Forst, and then Roche, the Geyser System, Axila. So I don't know if I said that right. And then Alantine, Yagadul, Palanhi. Like I said, if I'm butchering these, I'm so sorry. And then Zerka 431, skirmish at AB 343. So we have, there's all kinds, Battle of Eridonia, Battle of Mongaza. So many that had happened. The capture of Revan basically was a major battle in itself. So many here, ending again at the Battle of Rakata Prime. You have the skirmish at Korriban as well. So many influences here. So I recommend, if you're not familiar with the story, read the novel, read the story, play the games. The games really gets into every single one of those campaigns there. Gets into the story. You can do what if scenarios, which that's what George Lucas is very good about, was allowing the player to, alter the story a little bit. How you played the game and how you alter the story doesn't mean that it's canon, but it gave the player different scenarios to act out and what ifs to act out and have fun with. So, yeah. Yeah, I agree. Got to talk about the Jedi exile in the future. In some ways, she's more powerful than Revan was. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of her, but I am. Well, no, I wouldn't say that. So, yes, we got to talk about that. Now, I'll give my opinion of her once we do. So, we'll talk about Exar Kun. We might just go for the rest of August, go down the Sith path and talk about these guys. So, Exar Kun will be next Thursday. Man, the old Republic times were insane. It was very much insane. Very much. It's like it even puts like Palpatine ruling the galaxy, as the Empire. It even makes that even more mild. So very, very interesting. Very, very interesting in itself. So let me go ahead and read the standings of the poll now and close them out. So again, if you're tuning in right now, get your vote in. If you are catching the replay and you don't get a chance to vote on the poll, comment below which of these four you like the best. So here we go. So Darth Revan is at 63. Darth Nihilus at 11. Naga is at 5%. And Exar Kun at 21. So Darth Revan first, Exar Kun second, Darth Nihilus third, and Naga fourth. So again, if you're catching the replay, which one you like the best between these four? Darth Revan, Darth Nihilus, Naga Sadow, or Exar Kun. So I'm going to end the poll here. Thank you guys for taking time to vote. Thank you so much. And you might see it here on the screen here in the comments here. Choose which one. Leave a comment. Who do you like the best out of the four? Just these four. I don't want to know about anybody else. Just the four that I presented here. Some people are like, oh, well, I like so-and-so, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Let's see here. Old Republic was very advanced. Then the Dark Ages set it back till the Golden Age and the Empire started getting back to those days, in my opinion. Yeah, I could see what you're saying there. There's always going to be times in history where things slow down. It feels like there's dark times going on. It feels like there's regression going on, and then things pick up in which is called golden ages, I guess you can say, and all of that. So, very interesting. You see the ebb and flow of the galaxy in itself. You see the ebb and flow of the galaxy in itself, and it's very, very interesting. I'm just amazed. I don't know if you guys are like me, but I'm just amazed at how well how Lucasfilm under George Lucas crafted the EU and kept this historical time events that influenced thousands and thousands of years forward in the timeline. There was so much influence. There was so much, like a history does, like today in our reality it does. Like events eventually influence the future on like how the people are living, existing, government, all of that. So it's very, very interesting. So now we're gonna segue into something that's gonna be fun. Is it gonna be cringe? Probably. I think it's gonna be more cringe on probably the person who wrote the article. But then also, like I said, it also gives a glimpse into the direction Disney's taking the lore. So let's go ahead and get into it. And we're going to discuss how the person who wrote, and I don't remember the name now, I'll give it to you once the article's up, how they think for 24 years Star Wars misinterpreted George Lucas's rule of two. Think about that. Think about that. So, if you have people who are interested in wanting to learn more about the Rule of Two and how it was created and the authors who got involved with it, with George Lucas, and how there was a synergy of minds to create the Rule of Two, let them know that we're going into this part of the talk now, into Cringe Factor. Share out, like, and subscribe, or even if you can and you want to further support the channel and you have the means to, become a member. Become a member of the channel. I greatly appreciate every single one of you, no matter what status you come in as a subscriber, member, what have you. Thank you so much for your time. What, 4 or 5 years now? I'm guessing. Yeah, 4 years. 4 years now. So let's get into this Cringe Factor here.
So uncivilized.
Yes, it's so uncivilized. So I'm going to bring up the article here, but I also want to bring up a clip to watch as well that Soul Assassin shared. But I'm going to not do it right now. I will play it later on. So, and I also have information that I pulled out from, if people would just pull out the Reader's Companion. It's one of the works that I like about from Pablo Hidalgo. And that's saying a lot because I care less about him. But when me and him had a back and forth about what is canon back when in George Lucas era time, I basically proved him wrong. But instead of getting shitty with me, he agreed and he backed down. So I will give him that. But other than that, he's just this crazy cuck of a guy. And so there you go. That's all I have to say about him. And that's all I'm going to say about him. And for those who think that I go and get all my information from him, I have no relation to this guy and I can care less and I don't even talk to him. So those who have this misconception that I talked to Pablo Hidalgo because that was recently made against me, you fucking lost your mind. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. Anyways, with that being said, let's get into this. Star Wars has misunderstood George Lucas's Sith Rule of Two for 24 years. Imagine this. Imagine thinking, and we just talked about this now when we're discussing Revan, how much synergy, time was put into creating the history of Star Wars and how it influenced, thousands of years going forward and back, and, the maintaining of continuity. So what do you think that means? Maintaining continuity. What do you think that means? Well, what that means is that these people who are brought in to help write the Star Wars lore, because Star Wars is not just a film franchise, it's a multimedia franchise. And I will say this again, the first Star Wars content that came out was the novel and not the movie, for those who didn't know. Star Wars' first content was the novel. Think about that. And then George continued with possibilities of novels being written and even the comics alongside the movies. So with that being said, and the developing of the lore, George set these guidelines and these rules to what needed to be done to make sure that these writers, these contributors, knew exactly what George wanted, what they couldn't do, all of that. So with those who don't know, you're learning now. And some of these companions, like books that were brought out pre-Disney, shares a lot of this synergist creative synergy that the authors, the creators, like even the game creators, had with George and his trusted colleagues that spoke for him. So, yeah. So just imagine someone saying over 24 years, Star Wars misunderstood George Lucas. Now, I didn't know Star Wars was its own like brain, its own being. So it misunderstood George. So that's like a poorly worded title. So does this person mean Star Wars creatives? Because Star Wars didn't just think about itself and come about on its own synergy. It came from George, and it came from the people he trusted to write, right? So this is a very interesting title. Let me see what you guys have to say. Let me see here. There was a lot of stagnation since the Rusan Reformation, correct? Since there was the demilitarization of those things, yeah. Yeah, like I said, there's so much history to go and just like outline like what happened, all these wars. Maybe I'll create an outline of wars in the Star Wars history and map it out and share it on Twitter. I've actually been planning on my own Star Wars book trilogy set in the EU. I hope to share it all with you guys one day. That's awesome. That is very cool. Luca explains rule of two. Right. Just like Star Wars misunderstood Chosen One, since apparently there's a Chosen One every couple of decades according to Disney. You got a fun. That's a point right there. I've seen people who are so misguided that they even brush aside established evidence just to believe in their delusions. That's correct. He never changed Screen Rant. Your ignorance brings entertainment to many. Yeah, that's why Screen Rant has been so far one of the choices for Cringe Factor. So let me go ahead and get into this article here. Let's get into this. So let me get this ad out of here. I need to get an ad blocker. I haven't done that yet for my channel, for my computer. So this is written by Kevin Erdman, which I think he has a history here of not writing too many well thought out, well researched articles. And you're going to find out what I'm exactly talking about. Introduced at the beginning of a Skywalker saga, it can be argued that Star Wars has misunderstood the purpose of the Sith Lord's rule of two. So Star Wars itself has misunderstood the purpose of the Sith Lord's rule of two. Not the authors, not George, but Star Wars itself. Star Wars. That's it. Star Wars. And this is like their little bullets of their points, and that's something new that I guess they started, coming up with. All right, let me get into this. Zoom in a little bit bigger so we can all see. And I think, yeah, okay. There we go. Having been introduced at the beginning of Star Wars Skywalker's saga, and did you know, fun fact, that before Disney it was just called the Star Wars saga, not the Skywalker saga. So this in itself is segregating the lore of just having a certain timeline for the Skywalkers, and that's it, meaning that they are going to steer away from the Skywalkers. They have their own time and place. And so that's in the saga, meaning movies and stuff. So that's just another hint. And you'll see that in Ahsoka. But as though the Sith rule of two has been misunderstood. In the 24 years since the Phantom Menace, the rule of two has essentially been viewed as concrete doctrine established by the early Sith Lord Darth Bane. Well, it's been something that was created before Bane. He just discovered it and made it effective through Revan. We just talked about that today and last Thursday, or the Thursday after, sorry. However, that doesn't seem to have been the original intention as envisioned by George Lucas. So there we go. This is evidence right here that they didn't do their research. They did not do their research on exactly, because when you get into the rule of two and what George says, it's the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing. And I'm going to read out some development on Darth Bane trilogy and who was involved with creating the Sith lore and the rule of two. And I'm going to share a video with you guys. So here we go. A scene in Star Wars Episode 1, Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn was murdered by Darth Maul, a new Sith Lord. He's not a Sith Lord, he's a Sith apprentice, but anyways, and he's more of a Sith assassin than anything else, was defeated by Obi-Wan Kenobi. At Qui-Gon's funeral, Jedi Masters Yoda and Mace discussed the Dark Warrior who was undoubtedly a Sith. It's here that Yoda introduces a concept that would later be known as the Rule of Two. Always two they are, no more, no less, as master and apprentice. However, it seems Lucas meant for the rule of two to be more natural process rather than a decree that had to be followed by the Dark Lords of the Sith. So what do you think right here? However, it seems Lucas meant the rule of two to be more neutral or natural process than a decree that had to be followed by the Dark Lords of the Sith. I'm going to see what you guys are saying here, if anybody made any comments here. It's called the complete saga, period. And hey, girl, OG stars, I'm late because IT, laugh out, I'm here. Oh, okay, so you left the comment and then you went back to work. Well, I'm glad you're joining in. And for me, so this is Razvan, the rule of two should have been just a ruse in order to make the Sith apprentice eager to kill the Sith master. Well, yeah, but when you get into the lore, you will understand why. Because it goes to the dark side. If the only way for only Sith to live forever to steal, possess the body of another Force user. Maul was disposable tool and potential scapegoat in case the Jedi found out about the Sith existence. I have no doubt Palps had plans to end him if he survived Naboo. And well, of course, because look at he manipulated Anakin to end Dooku. Yeah, so that Anakin can become the Sith apprentice. That is evidence in itself that this is not a natural thing, that this is something that the dark side is not natural. The motivations of the Sith and those who are dark side related are not natural. And this is proof right here. So, it was soon established in the expanded universe and later confirmed in Disney lore or in, the Clone Wars series, excuse me, that the rule of two was established by Darth Bane. So the Clone Wars series didn't establish that. It was the authors. It was the creator of Darth Bane trilogy by Drew Carpathian, and then also lore before then. So I have the Reader's Companion in front of me because I wanted to read something to you guys from it. And I'm going to look at the date here because I forget when Darth Bane trilogy came out. Or the first book came out. All right, so it came out in 2007. So it came out before the Clone Wars. So I don't know why they're crediting this. So if anything, they are following what came before. Am I going to give Clone Wars credit for kind of keeping to established story, even though the majority of their stories, they don't keep canon or continuity? Yeah, maybe. Because again, the Darth Bane trilogy came out before the Clone Wars. After decades of infighting and Sith Lords murdering each other, Darth Bane manipulated events so that he would become the last Sith standing. Finding himself a new apprentice, Darth Bane established the rule of two, having understood that the only way for the Sith to remain in dominant power in the dark side was for there only to be one master and one apprentice. Of course, because like I said, the Sith are a dark side. Dark side is like a natural, basically, if you want to go to that discussion with Palpatine to Anakin at the Opera House. The dark side consists of a lot of unnatural things. Wicked, greed, all of that. Darth Bane's rule of two makes sense. And then the dark side also is about the embodiment of power, wanting to be the ultimate one with the power, right? To rule. So makes sense given the volatile nature of the dark side and the corruptive desire for power, its motives. It also explains why there were so many Jedi compared to only 2 Sith Lords during the prequel trilogy. However, the Rule of Two has, and so glad they're not saying, it needs to find balance kind of bullshit that they do. However, the Rule of Two has been used in the years since to criticize future moments in Star Wars timeline, particularly centered around Emperor Palpatine. So, with this being said, by the time we get to Palpatine was never the one to follow. And if it's going to gain him power and he breaks away from the Rule of Two, he's going to do that. We see that already. We've already seen that with the prequels. We already see that with, the OT kind of. But his direction was himself in ultimate power. Although Darth Vader was Palpatine's sole apprentice during the original trilogy, Palpatine has recruited Force-wielding Inquisitors. Inquisitors are not Sith. They are just tools for him to use. So I don't think that this person here understands the dynamics of what a dark side Jedi or dark Jedi is, an Inquisitor is, a Sith assassin is. They are not Sith Lords. They are not Sith apprentice. They are just dark side users being tools to the Dark Lord, basically. Likewise, it would later be revealed that he had the Sith Eternal cult. So we're going into the Disney lore here. And the Knights of Ren at the same time. Again, a cult does not make Sith. They're not Sith. Knights of Ren are not Sith. And I can't believe I'm defending Disney lore. At the same time, well before the events of the sequel trilogy, when both first appeared on screen. Likewise, Count Dooku was Palpatine's apprentice during the Clone Wars. He came about after Maul was killed. So he still fit in there as an apprentice, but he still was a tool because Palpatine was moving towards bringing Anakin in as his apprentice. So once Anakin was goaded to kill Count Dooku or Darth Tyrannus, he was out of the way now to finish up the manipulation of Anakin to the dark side. So this still held true with the Rule of Two. He had no one else under him as an apprentice. Before he brought him as apprentice, he was just mentoring. And you can influence and mentor someone. We see that with Anakin. Anakin, during the time he was mentoring, influence, manipulating, where Count Dooku was more or less, they were on the same train of thought, but he wasn't at the time of Darth Maul an apprentice. After Maul left, then Dooku came in as an apprentice. So do you see the timeline there with that? I don't think this person understands that. During the Clone Wars, while having dark side agents of his own. And dark side agents don't mean they are Sith. You can have dark siders work for you that are not Sith. There's a huge distinctive difference. And of course, Asajj Ventress, which I'm drinking, my mug has her on here. And then, while none of these servants were given the title of apprentice, it's been argued that they bend the rules of the Rule of Two. No, they don't. I don't know where you get that from. I'm going to see what you guys are saying here. Let me see. I want to make sure I get all of you guys, at least some of you guys in here as we move along. Yeah. Okay. Unlike the Jedi, I need to read up here. The greatest trick in the universe. Unlike the Jedi Pearl, we live forever in the Force as Force ghosts through good deeds Those should have been the two different force ideologies. Let's see here. Yes, please smash the like button. The Sith as just force parasites. Okay. A more centralized level of infighting, but also greater risk of key techniques being lost in the succession of generations. Yeah. So that's the thing. They were destroying themselves from the inside. They didn't need the Jedi to come in and destroy them. And that's another reason why Bane came up with the rule of two. That's why, he took this idea from Revan and created the rule of two. Because it's natural for, like I said, it's natural for the Sith to want to infight for power. And so something needed to happen with that. It needed to be reorganized. Diddy says, Lucas once said there used to be a lot of them, Sith, but they killed each other off because they wanted to be the king. The rule of two came later as an active choice to keep the order alive. Correct. And I was looking for that quote. So thank you. I know it was kind of paraphrased here from you, but that's exactly what he said. And I think Soul Assassin may have shared that. I didn't open that link, but he shared earlier when we began this conversation. Palpatine had servants, but never allowed them to get too powerful and become a threat to his rule. And that's the thing. He had his servants. He had, his they were his tools. He had the hands, Emperor's hands. He had the acolytes, are basically the inquisitors, but they weren't Sith. And his only apprentice was Darth Vader, and he kept him minimal too. Even the design of his suit was in the beginning, and over time, I believe that Anakin or Vader tinkered with it. But the suit itself was to help limit Vader as well. So let's see here. Count Dooku trained Asajj because Sidious needed to test Anakin because his end goal was to take Anakin as an apprentice. Maul and Dooku were just stepping stones, a savage old Jedi. Let's see here. All right, let's get back to this. I know you guys are coming up with all kinds of great conversations in here. I just want to clip out of there. There we go. Get out of there. There we go. All right, let me go back to this here. And I am going to share an important video too as well. But we're going to get through this first. And I got some information to read to you guys as well. As confirmed by Paul Duncan. And I do have this book, Star Wars Archive 1-3. Lucas confirmed this original. And I was going to try to find it. And I didn't have time last night. And I wish they would have cited the source on what page it was to take one that was far more organic. In Lucas's mind, the rule of two was the only means for which the Sith could have a stable order. Yep. And that's exactly, so I don't know where he gets the fact that the rule of two over 24 years was misunderstood, or Star Wars misunderstood it. That's exactly what the rule of two was about. So I don't think the person understood what the rule of two was about. This writer, I don't know. As such, two Sith Lords would always be the default foundation. Two Sith Lords, one apprentice, one master. No matter how many Sith rose in power, the order would naturally revert to one Sith master and one apprentice. Exactly. And they naturally be the strongest. Killing and eliminate rivals was how the two Sith Lords were chosen and decided. So that goes back to the Brotherhood. And then Darth Bane. So simple as that. Lucas also made note that the rule of two was the natural casualty of the Sith for longevity to be achieved. Yeah, that's exactly the quotes that I shared. And that said, the nature of the dark side meant that every apprentice wishes to kill and replace its master. Exactly. I don't know what this person seems to not understand what the rule of two is, and can't come to the conclusion why Star Wars for 24 years misunderstood George Lucas, because what he's presenting here is exactly the direction that Star Wars took when the rule of two was created. while every master is attempting to recruit another apprentice as a means of replacing their current one to maintain their own power. And that's what's seen in the prequel trilogy. It's a far more natural order and understanding rather than the doctrine and assumption that there can only be two Sith lords and agents of the dark side no matter what. That's, you just got done saying that that's exactly what it is, that the master brings in an apprentice. The apprentice wants to kill off the master to retain power, to gain power. You just said that here. So again, I don't think this person understands what the rule of two is. Likewise, the Star Wars canon Star Wars lore has established that Palpatine only cared for the rule of two so long as it served his plans for greater power. That is seen in the original lore. For example, it has been teased that Palpatine had already seduced and corrupted Dooku as his apprentice well before original apprentice Maul was killed in the Phantom Menace. He was manipulating, just like he has been manipulating Anakin before Dooku was killed. He didn't take him in, and a master can always have someone lined up, but they don't take them as apprentice. Apprentice can always have someone lined up, so when they defeat their master, they're ready to go. The Sith master is always looking for replacements, while the apprentice is always looking for their master's weakness. And then this is the last of it, and then we'll go through some more of this. George Lucas understood that understanding of the rule of two is that it's an organic process the dark side naturally achieves to maintain order. There's nothing natural about the dark side, as confirmed by the canonical Star Wars 100 Objects book. So I didn't look this up. I need to look that up. There is plenty of evidence that students and masters alike flouted the ritualistic rule of two, whether out of vengeance, ambition, or fear. So basically, that's it. It's a ritual between the two. What's that saying about the master and apprentice? The master having the power and the apprentice craves it, or something like that. I'm sorry if I butchered it. I didn't mean to. And while the rule of two might have been used as means of justifying a Sith Lord's murderous intent against another Sith, they were still murdering each other before the rule of two. It's about power. It's about greed. It's about domination. Being less of an actual rule or more of a default that will always be returned to make much more sense. Return? Okay, let me reread that. Being less of an actual rule or more of a default that will always be returned to make much more sense. It was also allows Lucasfilm, so Disney Lucasfilm, to debut more villains beyond the prominent Sith master and apprentice, even if they do eventually fade away, like Dooku's assassin and Imperial Inquisitors eventually do in Star Wars timeline. So what do you guys think? I'm going to go back here. Here. Let's see here. I thought that left. There we go. Like I've said, was just a personal attempt. I still think George's idea with the rule of two to keep the Sith order in check, not to slaughter each other, is kind of weak. How is it kind of weak? This is something about greed and power and stuff. Ultimate power by the Sith Lord. Bane took Darth Cognos as an apprentice after he lost faith in Zana. Tenebrous had Venomous when he thought Plagueis was weak. Correct. They're always going to replace someone else. They're always going to replace. And the apprentice is always going to do that as well. So it's very interesting to see how this person here, whoopsie, I don't know why I have that on there. I forget that I could switch over. I want to go back to the article. Let me go ahead and get out of that. That was interesting. Anyways, so I'm just going to put myself back on the screen because we don't need to see that. So the rule of two. When you get into the history, the Sith were killing each other, making their order, weak, losing, years of history and stuff like that, with people dying, holding on to that history and stuff like that. And the infighting caused a lot of problem. That was seen in the Brotherhood, right? Brotherhood of Darkness. That was seen there. So when Bane came along and he was brought into the Brotherhood, he seen that problem. And I'm not going to get into all the story of his fighting and his training in the Brotherhood and all of this other stuff. But he's seen the problem. He got a hold of Darth Revan's holocron, who was a huge influencer, and we just got done talking about him. He was a huge influencer to the rule of two. And I'm gonna go ahead and play this video. So let me go ahead and get these guys out of my thing here. I'm gonna go ahead and play a video that Soul Assassin shared with me when last night, and I thought this would be basically, and it's from the game, but it leads into something very interesting. So let me see here. Make sure Chrome tab, CAF Chat. Okay, here we go. Okay, share tab audio. Okay, there we go. So here we go. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. This gives you an idea. We're going to get into the history of the creation of the Rule of Two with the Raiders.
Any master who instructs more than one apprentice in the ways of the dark side is a fool. In time, the apprentices will unite their strength and overthrow the master. It is inevitable, axiomatic. This is why each master must only have one student. This is also the reason there can only be one Dark Lord. The Sith should be ruled by a single leader, the very embodiment of the strength and power of the dark side. If the leader grows weak, another must rise to seize the mantle. The strong rule, the weak are made to serve. This is the way it must be. My time here has ended. Take what I have taught you and use it well. Any master who instructs more than one apprentice in the ways of the dark side.
Now, I didn't even ask if you guys heard it, so hopefully you guys heard that. Yeah, but let me see here. The Rule of Two cultivate the power of both Sith until time is ready. Yeah, they went into hiding for 1,000 years in the ultimate Revenge of the Sith, which basically Palpatine was the heir to. Basically, Palpatine was the heir to. Basically, the Sith of the past were fighting both the Jedi and themselves. They wouldn't, well, back then, once Bane came in and stuff like that, and, there's that history there, and he created the Rule of Two, that's when they started going into, like, exile and stuff like that. And then there was throughout the history of times where they fought against the Jedi, but they didn't know it was the Sith and stuff. So there was mysterious deaths with Jedi and stuff like that. Very interesting time frame. I wish it would have been open more in that time frame, but it wasn't. But very, very interesting in itself. So with that being said, George Lucas basically sat down with authors like Tim Veitch and even Drew Carspatian to create the Sith lore and the Rule of Two. And that's well known. And that's reflected in the Sith history, going all the way back to back to the early lore and mythology of Star Wars, like the Sith mythology and stuff like that. So that's very interesting. So all right. So with that being said, like I said, this Essentials Reader's Companion, and my poor thing's falling apart, and I'm going to go ahead and put myself on screen here. I don't know why I haven't been on screen, because I look decent. So this right here, and it's falling apart. I do have important pages marked and stuff like that. One of my favorite resource books to use, and I'm saying, like, basically my poor fingernails, I had black fingernail polish coming off. But anyways, this is one of my favorite things from Pablo Hidalgo. I will credit for him doing. I love this resource book. So if you want to add this to your library, it has great information in here about George's influence and working with the authors as well. I highly recommend this. I highly recommend amend this. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead, and I don't like to have myself on screen while I read, so I'm going to take myself off screen. So here we go. So this is regarding Darth Bane trilogy, but also goes into other creations, other authors creating the history of the Sith. Watch OG Star Wars start a fashion trend with that hat. Laugh out loud. Okay, so basically, the saga of Darth Bane is an excellent example of the collaborative, interactive, and cumulative nature of the expanded universe storytelling. The evolution of the Sith Order was told through many sources to become a single narrative with no one author. So I don't think the person did their research to understand that this was basically a collaborative, collaboration between George Lucas and the authors who were expanding the Sith lore history. And it clearly shows in this, because it's like this guy couldn't even come to a conclusion and evidence that over 24 years that Star Wars misunderstood George Lucas's rule of two. All they came to the conclusion is that going forward with Disney, that they can do anything else they want because now they can. Or I don't know. Like, I don't even think they have a conclusion of that. So the motion picture Star Wars 1977 makes no mention of Darth Vader's title, but the term Dark Lord of the Sith is indeed in the script and in tie-in publications, like the film's novelization, which I just got done saying not too long ago, that the film's novelization was the first material that came out, not the film, but the novel itself. Like the film's novelization, in the development of Heir to the Empire in 1991, author Timothy Zahn attempted to establish the Sith as a species of assassins completely subservient to Darth Vader. Lucasfilm rejected this idea, and Zahn's imagined Sith instead became the Nogri. So a little bit of history here. So Timothy Zahn's like, we'll make the Sith assassins. And they're like, nope, that's not what George intended them to be. Corrected him on that. With insights from George Lucas, author Timothy Veitch began revealing more about the Sith in the Tales of the Jedi comic series in 1993. They were dark side practitioners, the antithesis of the Jedi Order. So when people say, oh, well, George never intended the Sith and the Jedi to fight in battle or have civil wars or whatever, he is the one that helped establish that lore. He helped establish all of that. The backstory revealed that only one Sith may wear the mantle of Dark Lord, while another Sith served as an apprentice. Though there was no restriction on the number of Sith present at any time, Tales of the Jedi, the Freedom Nod Uprising in 1994, that's when the story came out, used the term Sith civilization, revealing the Sith to be an entire species. And another thing that the author failed to reveal. The Sith would be visibly depicted as red-skinned humanoids in Tales of the Jedi, the Golden Age of the Sith from 1996 to 1997. LucasArts video game Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight from 1997 and accompanying Dark Forces novellas from Dark Horse Comics described the epic struggle for the ancient world of Rusan, the planet in home to the fabled Valley of the Jedi, site of an ancient battle between Jedi Army of the Light and the Brotherhood of the Darkness. The Dark practitioners are not explicitly called Sith in the source, and the battle is said to occur hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Although not intended at the time, the story would become an essential piece of Sith history. So there's a little bit more history here. Again, working together to create a continuity. Yes, there was a little bit of contradictions here and there. That's going to happen. In 1999, The Phantom Menace finally shed the light on George's visions of the Sith, which at first glance would not seem to align with what had appeared previously in the expanded universe. This canonical history describes a strict limitation of two Sith at one time, a master and an apprentice, and establishes that the Sith have been extinct for millennium. Working with the author Terry Brooks, Lucas revealed more specific details in the episode 1 novelization. 2,000 years in the past, a Jedi had left the Order to found the Sith. 1,000 years after that, the Sith Order disintegrated due to infighting, and sole survivor Darth Bane restructured the Order to number only 2. Do you know that George Lucas helped create Darth Bane himself? So do you see the history here that this person who wrote this article failed to research and give to create some other narrative to maybe support Disney, Lucasfilm with the direction they're going with the Rule of Two? Do you now envision what's going on with this reconstruction of the lore to fit with what Disney wants to do? It's very revealing because it's all right here in this book here that I'm reading, the Essentials Reader's Guide that Pablo Hidalgo shared. It is here that the history of the Sith begins to coalesce. The extinction of the old Sith Order was merged with the Tales of Rusan, and Darth Bane became the sole survivor from the encounter, living on to found the new Sith Order. This point was explicitly made in Essentials chronologically in 2000, and Secrets of the Sith in 2000. A young reader source book before being dramatized in the Jedi vs. Sith comic series 2001, and later still the Darth Bane books. So there you go. This in itself debunks this person's whole theory that Star Wars, or the creators in Star Wars, misunderstood George Lucas's vision of the Rule of Two for 24 years. In fact, this shares that how much George had a hand in creating the Rule of Two, and even using it in the Phantom Menace and evolving it from there so that it basically made sense. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this cringe factor. You know, it's always fun to basically bring these cringe factor articles to bring to light on the direction that Disney's taken Star Wars and changing how people perceive Star Wars and its lore. So this is a very, this article in itself is misleading. And it's going to make people who read it think that, Star Wars from the past went against George Lucas's wishes about the Rule of Two, like the creators and stuff like that. So from that being said, this person was very dishonest. Whether we know that he intentionally left out all this evidence or that he's very ignorant and didn't do his research, the conclusion to this is that people who read this now will have another narrative to spew, who are anti-EU people, spew that these authors, these creators that George Lucas and his company hired and trusted to carry on the lore under his vision went against what George was going for. It's very revealing in itself. So I'm going to see what you guys have to say. So thought this was very interesting. I was like, I wanted to pull up more resources, but this one right here says it all. And Drew Carpathian too was known to have met with George to make sure all these ends tied because he worked with George. George created Darth and with Drew Carpathian. So that in itself, shares that this person basically is very dishonest and knew the evidence but did not reveal it, and just used certain key elements that George had said that maybe would go with his narrative to share that, that to be dishonest about the EU, or that he was just ignorant and didn't know and didn't do his research, whatever that meant. So let me go ahead and put myself back on screen. Hello, you guys. And I don't know what 19 meant, so sorry about that. Mighty Orbots, I'm glad you're here with us. So everything he said about my idea with the hidden main goal of the rule of two doesn't contradict with what you guys said in the comments or what Aloris. I just added something cool to it. I don't know. This is very dishonest from what I shared here. It's always about just the two. And that's what George shared too. Dark side villains predate the Sith by millennial. Correct. And that's always been a thing. So again, that wasn't proof that this gave them a chance to bring in other villains. Other villains existed outside the Sith, the dark side platform themes. The Tython War that created the Jedi were fought by light and dark siders, then the legions of Leto and the 100 Years of Darkness. Correct. Man, we still have a lot to cover, just even even before the Old Republic. One true immortal Sith using Rule of Two was a ruse against the Sith apprentice, fighting a pro of Jedi, plurals or Jedi, that should have been the main conflict in the Star Wars. One true evil versus good. Strategic? I don't know. And maybe it was strategic. I don't know. It must be said also that the prequels changed information given by Lucas and the actors like Mark Hamill, because that's what happens. So you mean sequels or not prequels? So I'm going to re-say that again. It must be said also that the prequels changed information given by Lucas and the actors like Mark Hamill, because that's what happened during what an ongoing project that spans for decades. I kind of misunderstood. Are you talking about the sequels? Inconsistencies happen no matter what, even if it was only Lucas working on it. Yeah, we even see that with Lord of the Rings, with under the Legendarium with Tolkien. He made some mistakes too, and he corrected some. He went back and corrected, and there's other things he didn't correct. So because of his passing and stuff, I guess. So Diddley Squat says, for example, we have photos of Padme pregnant on the set of Attack of the Clones, which align with what Mark said about the prequels when publicizing episode 4 and 5, but it was later changed by Lucas. That's just an idea. So there's ideas that were put out on when she needed to be pregnant or not. That doesn't mean that it's that was bad. Attack of the Clones was the original movie to feature Order 66. Again, ideas. Okay. So with that being said, we're coming up on the hour. Thank you guys again for tuning in and hanging out, talking about Old Republic lore, leaning into the future of Star Wars, into, the Skywalker timeline, I guess you could say, even though that's not a thing. So leading into the Dark Times, the Empire, Palpatine, all of that, all those events there. So thank you guys again for tuning in. I will be on the spacing tomorrow night, so stay tuned for that. It starts about 8:05 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, my time. So from there, you can gauge in when it starts on your time. See you guys there. I am finishing up and getting ready to record vocally my notes for that compare and contrast video that's been taking a little longer because I wanted to make sure I have everything aligned. But this is I have about 7 pages. It's like I could turn this into an article and submit it to the expandeduniverse.com as a compare and contrast between both Luke's order in the original lore and Luke's order in the Disney lore. I think it's going to be very interesting, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about it. Once I get it up, I'm sorry, I should have had it up already. Shit happens. So stay tuned for that. Mondays are usually my days I put up content now. That's my content day, but this content ended up being more extensive than I planned on. Sometimes that happens. Research happens, making sure I get everything aligned so that you guys get a quality video. Quality over quantity. Something that Lucasfilm now cannot fathom. So stay tuned for that. And again, CAF Chat next week. We'll talk about Exar Kun, which I'm excited about. And I can't tell you what Cringe Factor article is going to be about because that just is on week-to-week basis as well. So thank you guys again for tuning in. And Darth Toby's awake. He's zooming around. He just zoomed around behind me. He is awake. Today's his birthday. My birthday is Saturday. I will announce if I'm going live if I have time, depending on what family wants to do and what we're going to do, what kind of partying we're going to do, what have you. So thank you guys again for tuning in. You guys have a great day, and may the force be with you.
I have fought the worst of all wars and witnessed the redemption of evil. I have seen balance restored to the Force. But order can turn to chaos, as it did when I was born. Now, with my loved ones and my loyal allies, I face a new challenge unlike any before. And I'm not sure at this time we can win.
Star Wars Vector Prime by R.A. Salvatore, the first novel of the new Jedi Order.
Another happy landing.